Hello, my name is Theme. Today I want to talk about theme and what the heck it is. Theme is actually an idea or insight about human life and human nature that gives meaning to the story. And it's actually an author's entire purpose behind writing a story. Well, maybe not his entire purpose behind writing it, but it's the message that he wants to get out. Okay, this is what he wants people to get out of reading this book or story. What it is not. It is not a moral, and it is not a lesson. Okay, those are fables. Fables are, look before you leap, or don't judge a book by its cover. We want to try and avoid these cliche type sayings when we're developing a theme, which can be tough because sometimes the authors are going with those ideas. But we want to be more specific in terms of our phrasing. So the question is how do you figure this out? Well, the first way to do it is to examine if and how any of the characters have changed. So basically what causes the change, who's involved in the change, what effect did the change have on the character? Does it make them good? Does it make them angry? Does it make them depressed? Does it make them commit suicide? Does it make them end up getting married? Look at all of our 5 W's and an H. The who, what, when, where, how, why. Yes, they are still here. They don't ever seem to go away. So then you need to ask yourself what the characters' changes say about human life and human nature. So for instance, in the movie Frozen, you've got Elsa, and at the beginning of the movie, she's reserved. She is terrified. She's very distant. She shuts her sister out, and she's alone in the world. But then her sister, who never gave up on her and is always protecting her and believing in her, causes Elsa to change and makes her more free, confident, close to her sister, and loved. Really we go from this uptight, terrified girl to this woman who, quite honestly, is really good looking, and now she's confident and free in what she does. Sometimes that doesn't work, and so you need to look at the conflict. What's going on in the story, basically? How are the characters handling this conflict? What works? What doesn't work? For instance, Elsa thinks running away is going to solve her problems. Well, it doesn't, because now she realizes that Arendelle is completely under snow. So her conflict is this conceal, don't feel, be the good girl you always have to be. It's this keep the, my imperfections hidden from everybody else. Don't let anyone ever see who I really am, and then I'm not going to have to worry about life. Well, that doesn't work for her. Instead, it ends up literally blowing up in her face, just in ice, not fire. So what if those two things don't help? Well, the third thing to look for is reoccurring ideas. Sometimes authors and movies have repetition, and when they have this repetition, it is the author's way of saying, this is the important part, so pay attention. Think about your favorite song, and then the chorus, which is just repeating over and over and over again the same ideas. That's because that's what the musician wants you to take away from the song. Same thing in a story. It's what the author wants you to take away from it. So for instance, in the Lego movie, you've got everything is awesome. And in Frozen, let it go. In fact, so many people just want her to let it go on the song too. So let's take a look at this for a moment.
Oh my gosh, I love this song! Always use a turn signal. Park between the lines.
All right, I hope you were able to jam out like I was in my chair. But this song, it just keeps saying everything is awesome, and it's the only song any of them ever listened to. And this is irony. It's actually propaganda as well. But basically, what the movie is trying to tell us is that everything is not awesome, which is why it's still being played over and over again. It makes you want to scream, no, it's not all awesome. We don't want to follow the user manuals all the time. It's the same basic idea, or it is the idea here of why everything is not awesome. Looking at Let It Go. Oop. Okay, technical difficulties, but you all know the song, Let It Go. Let it go equals let it loose. Stop being afraid. Stop distancing yourself out of fear. You know, that's what she's saying in this song. She just wants to let it all go and give up all these things that she has been living her entire life by. Finally, you can examine the subject. Okay, subject is, think about like you went and saw a movie and somebody says, hey, what was the movie about? And you say, oh, it was about love, or it was about war, or it was about courage. Those are the subjects. Okay, these aren't themes. This is just the basic idea of what the movie or book is about. So the subject of Shrek, love and appearances are deceiving, are really the two most prominent subjects of the movie. Now again, subject does not equal the theme though. Okay, it's an element to get us to the theme. So what we need to do is we need to turn that subject into a theme, and we do that by saying, what is the author saying about this subject? So love and Shrek. Well, what is the author saying about love in the movie Shrek? And they're saying love does not know boundaries. I mean, think about it. You've got Fiona, who falls in love with an ogre, even though she is supposed to fall in love with a prince. Remember, she's sitting there in the tower reading the book, and she knows she's supposed to fall in love with a prince, because that's just the way it works in fairy tales. And then you've got Donkey and Dragon falling in love with each other, and yeah, I just haven't figured that one out yet. But anyways, it works for them because love does not know boundaries. Okay, so notice here, not only am I asking what's the author saying about this, but then I'm going to that next step and saying, what's my proof? How do I know? Aw, aren't they cute? So theme is putting it all together. Okay, so I'm doing all of that. I'm thinking about the conflict. I'm thinking about the characters. I'm thinking about repetition. I'm thinking about the subject. And I've come up with love is blind to race, religion, and societal expectations. That's my theme that I've come up with. Now, something to note is that if I asked all of you to write down a theme about a story, no two people are going to have exactly word for word the same theme, unless they copied off of one another. But still, themes are not, there is no answer book for it, okay? Instead, it is going to be slightly based off of interpretation, but not entirely. All right, a few more themes. In Frozen, hiding your differences only leads to destruction of relationships. Yep, sounds about right. Being open about who you are strengthens relationships. Yep. And conformity is not great at all. So, a couple other things to know. Themes don't just apply to the characters in the book. These are things that are applying to us, the human beings in the real world. They are the author's messages that he believes all humans should at least be aware of, if not live by. Of course, an author feels very strongly about his themes, but they are also aware of the fact that the reader doesn't have to agree with the themes. In fact, quite often, themes are debatable, and that's fun. That's where you get into these intellectual conversations. No, I do believe that, love knows boundaries. Love knows that you shouldn't be, a donkey and a dragon shouldn't be able to get married. It just doesn't work. I'd have a difficult time supporting that beyond the the physiological things and, physical stuff, but whatever. Anyways, I hope now you have a better idea of what theme is. And I look forward to developing themes with you in class.